You do realize you're donating half your salary, right? Bill Morrison's voice cracked in disbelief. He stared at the payroll screen glowing under the fluorescent light. The number couldn't be right, $1,200, gone every 2 weeks from a janitor's check. Across from him, Maya Williams, 29, stood in her gray uniform holding a mop handle like a staff. Her face was calm but tired. "Yes, sir," she said simply. Bill rubbed his forehead. "Half, Maya. Not 10%. Not 20. Half." Before she could reply, a deep voice echoed down the corridor. "What's going on here?" Every head turned. Lincoln Halverson, CEO of Halverson Capital, had appeared in the doorway, tall, silver-haired, in a dark navy suit worth more than Maya made in a year. The man was precision and power in human form. "Sir, there's a strange transaction," Bill stammered. "One of the janitorial staff has been giving away half her salary, every paycheck, to something called Seeds for Scholars." "No." Lincoln's eyes narrowed. "Half her salary?" He looked directly at Maya. "That's you?" "Yes, sir." He stepped closer. "Is this some kind of scam? A pity act to get attention?" Maya shook her head. "No, sir. Just a habit." "A habit?" Lincoln's tone sharpened. "Most people with your paycheck can barely afford groceries, and you're out here funding other people's kids?" "I'm funding their hope," she said quietly. Lincoln gave a dry laugh. "Hope doesn't pay rent, Miss Williams. Do you even realize how irresponsible that is? Giving away half your income, what do you live on? Fairy dust." The room went silent. Even the hum of the lights seemed to hold its breath. Maya looked up, her voice soft but steady. "I live on enough, sir. I just want to help a few kids get what I couldn't." Lincoln studied her like she was a puzzle missing logic. "What exactly didn't you get?" "A chance," she said. "Wait, before we continue, if this story touched your heart, please hit subscribe. It truly encourages us to bring you more powerful stories. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to know our amazing viewers around the world." The words hung in the air, simple and devastating. He gestured for her to follow. "My office." Now, they entered the executive elevator. Lincoln pressed the top floor without looking at her. His reflection in the mirrored walls looked like marble, hers like a shadow beside it. When the doors opened, she was led into a glass-walled office that overlooked Manhattan. The skyline glittered cold, distant, perfect. Lincoln turned, arms crossed. "Explain it to me like I'm slow. You make $2,400 a month. You give away $1,200. Why?" Maya hesitated, then said, "Because I know what it feels like to want to learn and not afford to. If my little bit helps a child stay in school, that's enough." Lincoln leaned forward, incredulous. "Enough? That's not noble. That's delusional. You're practically living on fumes. And you're giving to a bunch of strangers you'll never meet?" "They don't have to know me," Maya said softly. "They just have to keep going." He laughed once, humorless. "You know what happens to people who think like that? They get stepped on. Used. The world doesn't reward kindness. It eats it." "Maybe," she answered, "but at least I'll know I wasn't part of the hunger." Lincoln's jaw tightened. The audacity of this woman, this janitor, speaking like she'd cracked the code of morality unsettled him. "How old are you?" he asked suddenly. 29. "Meant. And what's your plan, Miss Williams? Keep scrubbing floors for the rest of your life while financing someone else's dream?" She smiled faintly. "Maybe that's my dream, sir." He blinked. "To scrub floors? To make sure someone else doesn't have to," she said. Lincoln exhaled sharply and turned away, his voice colder now. "You know, where I come from, charity was what people did to feel better about failure. My father built this empire by keeping emotion out of business. You might want to try that." "And yet," Maya said, "you look like a man who hasn't slept in a long time." Lincoln froze. The remark sliced through his composure like glass. For a moment, his face hardened, then he smirked. "You're dangerously honest for a janitor." She nodded. "Honesty's free, sir. It's the only thing I can afford." He studied her for a long moment, unsure if he was angry, impressed, or both. "You really think giving half your money away will change the world?" "No," Maya said. But maybe it'll change one kid's world. That's enough for me. Lincoln shook his head. You're wasting your life on sentiment. You could invest that money, double it, build something real. She looked at him steadily. I am building something real, just not the kind you can put in a portfolio. He opened his mouth, then stopped. Something about the conviction in her tone felt too genuine to argue with. Fine, he said finally. But if I find out this Seeds for Scholars is fraudulent, you'll be held accountable. That's fair, sir. Dismissed. Maya turned to leave, her steps measured. But just before she reached the door, Lincoln spoke again. Miss Williams, he said, his voice low, curious. If you were me, if you had billions, would you still give half away? She looked over her shoulder. No, sir. I'd give more. The door clicked behind her. Lincoln stood there, stunned, the city's glow reflected in his eyes. For a man who lived in numbers, her words didn't add up, and that unsettled him more than he cared to admit. He sat behind his desk, staring at her payroll statement. Half her salary, he muttered. What kind of person does that? He opened his laptop, searching Seeds for Scholars. The site was plain, almost crude. No branding, no glossy promises. Just photos of kids holding used textbooks and smiling shyly at the camera. A line of text read, "Planting dreams in soil no one notices." Lincoln leaned back in his chair. His reflection stared back at him from the black glass, an image of wealth without warmth. Downstairs, Maya mopped the last stretch of marble, humming a hymn her mother used to sing. Her phone buzzed. Malik got accepted. The scholarship came through. She smiled through tears. Then it was worth it, she texted back. In his penthouse office, Lincoln stared out at the sleepless city. The sound of rain against the windows filled the silence. For the first time in years, he felt something close to confusion. Maybe even shame. The billionaire couldn't understand how someone with so little could give so much, and why that truth scared him more than any financial loss ever could. If this moment moved you, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who still believes in kindness. Maya Williams leaned her mop against the supply cart and exhaled, long and quiet. The hallway outside Lincoln Halverson's office stretched before her, cold and spotless, like nothing had ever happened. But everything had. Her heart still thudded from the confrontation. She had never been inside a billionaire's office before, let alone told one that he looked tired and emotionally bankrupt. And yet, she didn't regret a word. She returned to the janitor's closet, a cramped room lined with shelves of cleaning supplies and disinfectant. It smelled of bleach and dust, familiar and grounding. She sat on an overturned crate and checked her phone again. A new message blinked from her sister. You're crazy for saying that to your boss, but I'm proud of you. Also, Malik hasn't stopped smiling since the news. Maya smiled, then tucked the phone away and leaned her head back. She didn't want attention. She never had. The only spotlight she needed was the quiet kind, the one that shone on a child's report card or a college acceptance letter. Across the building, Lincoln sat at his desk staring at the same spreadsheet. But now the numbers looked different. They had weight. Her salary, her gift, wasn't a rounding error. It was a choice, a sacrifice, a deliberate defiance of logic. He picked up his office phone. Get me the director of HR. A few moments later, a voice answered. Yes, Mr. Halvorson. Has Maya Williams ever requested a raise? There was a pause. No, sir. She's declined merit bonuses twice, said she didn't need them. Lincoln leaned back, rubbing his temples. Who turns down more money in this city? He stood and walked toward the large window, watching the rain trace lines across the glass. His own rise to power had been built on calculating risk and squeezing value from every angle. He didn't understand people who gave without return, but now he was intrigued. Find out everything you can about Seeds for Scholars, he said, quietly. Understood. The next morning, Maya arrived an hour early. She always did. The city was still half asleep when she stepped through the back entrance of the building with her thermos and her worn lunch bag. She tied back her hair, snapped on gloves, and started with the lobby. As she wiped the front desk, the receptionist, Claire, raised an eyebrow. You all right, Maya? Word is you got summoned by the boss last night. Maya nodded, not stopping her motion. Just to chat. Claire chuckled. Well, if he fires you, I'm walking out in protest. Maya grinned. Then let's hope he keeps me around, or this lobby's going to get real dusty. Upstairs, Lincoln watched her on the security feed. No drama, no arrogance, just work, the kind of quiet grace that corporations rarely noticed. He opened a second tab on his laptop, the Seeds for Scholars homepage. He clicked through the About Us section. It was bare bones, no fancy staff bios, no gala photos, just a picture of 4 smiling kids, one of them holding a sign. Thank you, Miss Maya. That name again. He scrolled further. A donation ledger. Maya's name appeared again and again, always the same amount. Like clockwork. Lincoln narrowed his eyes. This wasn't a one-time gesture. It was a commitment. Later that afternoon, Lincoln held his regular leadership meeting. Seated around the long glass table were VPs and senior directors, all sharp suits and sharper opinions. Before we begin, he said, I'd like to bring something to your attention. If you're still here and enjoying the story, we'd love your support. Take a second to hit subscribe. It really means a lot. A few heads turned. This wasn't typical. There's an employee in our janitorial staff, he continued, who has, for over a year, donated half her paycheck to a grassroots educational foundation, quietly. No recognition. No fundraising incentives. Just belief. A pause filled the room. Her name is Maya Williams, and her actions, Lincoln said slowly, have raised a question I can't ignore. What exactly are we doing that matters? There was silence. Some shifted uncomfortably. Vivian Cross, head of public relations, finally spoke. Are you suggesting we use this for a campaign? A human interest piece? Lincoln gave her a look colder than the AC vent above. No, I'm suggesting we ask ourselves why it takes a janitor to remind us what integrity looks like. Vivian looked away. Back in the janitorial closet, Maya opened a manila envelope. Inside were handwritten letters from students she'd helped over the years. She kept every single one. She unfolded one from Malik, written when he was just 14. I want to build rockets one day. If I make it, it's because of you. Her fingers brushed the words. She had no children of her own. No partner. But she had a legacy of names, dreams, and futures taking flight because someone refused to look away. She didn't know that, 2 floors up, Lincoln had just instructed his team to audit every internal community investment program at Halverson Capital. For the first time in years, he was looking beyond the numbers. That evening, Lincoln left the building through the service exit. He never did that. But tonight, he waited by the employee locker room. Maya stepped out, startled to see him. Mr. Halverson? He nodded. Walk with me. They walked down the block in silence. The city buzzed around them, buses, horns, a saxophone playing badly from a subway grate. I looked into Seeds for Scholars, he said finally. I figured you would. It's legitimate. Grassroots. Underfunded. But effective. Maya glanced sideways. I never asked for endorsements, sir. I know. He stopped walking. Which is exactly why I want to offer support. She turned to him, cautious. Support? A matching grant. From the company. Quietly. Anonymous if you prefer. No PR circus. Maya blinked. Why? Lincoln looked off into the city. Then back at her. Because something tells me the next world changer might be mopping a floor today. And I don't want to be the reason they never get the chance. Maya stared at him, then nodded once. Then we do it for them, not for us. Agreed. Major. As she walked away, Lincoln remained standing on the sidewalk, the wind tugging gently at his coat. He felt a strange sensation, something unfamiliar. Purpose. The following Monday, whispers fluttered through the break rooms of Halverson Capital like wind in dry leaves. Something had changed. It wasn't on the bulletin boards or in a mass email, but people noticed the shift. Some swore they saw Lincoln Halverson in the staff kitchen pouring his own coffee. Others said he stopped a senior manager mid-rant to ask why the intern didn't have a seat at the table. But most shocking of all was the rumor that he had personally matched a donation made by one of the janitorial staff. Not just any donation, half a paycheck. Repeatedly. For over a year, Maya Williams moved through the hallways with her usual quiet rhythm, mop in hand, badge clipped slightly crooked to her uniform. a small thermos of weak coffee tucked into the side of her cart. But now, people looked up when she passed. They didn't see just the janitor. They saw something more. Maya tried to ignore it. She wasn't doing this to be seen. The attention made her skin itch. She just wanted to work her shift, send the next donation, and maybe if she was lucky sneak a glance at her phone for news about Malik's first day at orientation. But by noon, she was summoned again. Executive office, floor 34, the same place where giants made decisions and salaries had more zeros than birthdays. She arrived to find Lincoln standing at his desk, sleeves rolled up. He gestured toward the same seat she had declined last time. "Sit," he said. This time, she did. "I wanted to talk before the board meets," Lincoln began. "I've decided to redirect a portion of the company's philanthropic arm toward local, underserved education initiatives, including Seeds for Scholars." Maya raised an eyebrow. "What's the catch?" He smiled faintly. "That's a very good question." She waited. "There is no catch," he said, "but I want you involved, not as a janitor, as an advisor." Maya blinked. "Excuse me? I want you to consult on this initiative, shape it, guide it. These funds need someone who knows where they'll matter." "I'm not qualified," she said quickly. "I don't have a degree in nonprofit management or public policy. I have cleaning gloves and student debt. Meh. And empathy," Lincoln replied, "which no one at this table has had in years." She looked at him hard. "You think putting me at a table with your board of billionaires will change anything?" "I don't know," he admitted, "but I think you might." Maya shook her head. "This isn't who I am." Lincoln leaned in, resting his forearms on the desk. "Miss Williams, I've had 5 Ivy League consultants who can't explain what impact looks like. You did it in one sentence. I'm funding their hope. That's the voice this company needs, even if it makes some people uncomfortable." The silence hung heavy. Maya looked out the window, to the city spread beneath them. "I'll think about it." "Fair enough," he said, standing. "But if you say yes, you'll be starting with me at the Bridges and Books event next Friday. It's a reading program downtown. Small, messy, honest. Like the world should be." She stood. "All right. I'll show up. But I'm still keeping my mop." He smirked. "Fair deal." Well, that night, Lincoln received an email from an anonymous sender. Subject: "Keep your charity where it belongs." Message: "You're not the kind of CEO who panders to janitors. Get your head back in the game before the board removes you." No name, no signature. Just a threat typed in perfect, passive-aggressive Times New Roman. Lincoln stared at the message, then deleted it. But the bitterness in it lingered. Someone didn't like what he was doing. 3 days later, Maya arrived at the Bridges and Books Center with her mop still in her car and a folder of scholarship applications under her arm. The center was nothing fancy: peeling paint, wobbly bookshelves, kids running around with juice boxes, but there was life here, and laughter. Lincoln stood near a folding table, talking with a volunteer. When he spotted Maya, he waved her over. "You're early," he said. "I hate being late," she replied. "Good," he said, then paused. "You nervous?" "I've never had to explain hope in front of a room full of rich people before." Lincoln smiled. "Then don't. Just talk to the kids. That's the only part that matters." They stepped into the room together, where 30 children, mostly black and Latino, sat cross-legged with oversized books in their laps. Maya recognized the look in their eyes. It was the look of wanting to matter, wanting someone to believe they could. She kneeled beside a boy who reminded her of Malik. His name was Jeremiah. He couldn't pronounce the word asteroid. She broke it down for him, syllable by syllable. By the 3rd try, he nailed it. His smile lit the room. From across the space, Lincoln watched Maya with the boy, her expression patient and full of warmth. And suddenly, he understood something. What Maya was building couldn't be charted in reports. It couldn't be scaled, franchised, or acquired. It had to be felt. As they left the event, Maya looked up at him. "So," she said, "now that we've read to 33rd graders, are you still sure you want me involved?" Lincoln smiled. More than ever. But both of them knew that storm clouds were gathering. The anonymous message wasn't a fluke. Some corners of the company didn't like change, and certainly not the kind led by a woman with no title and a mop. The boardroom on the 38th floor was a study in excess polished mahogany, imported glass panels, and a chandelier worth more than a New York townhouse. Around the massive oval table sat 12 of the most influential figures in Halverson capital. All older. All white. All staring at Lincoln Halverson with varying degrees of polite disdain. "We're not here to discuss janitors, Lincoln," said James Whitmore, head of the investment division, his voice dry as sandpaper. "This board exists to drive shareholder returns, not fund sentimental side projects." Lincoln leaned back, fingers steepled beneath his chin. "I'm not funding a side project. I'm investing in a human being who's doing more good than most of us ever will." A snort came from Elaine Granger, legal counsel. "Are you seriously suggesting we turn over philanthropic strategy to someone who mops floors?" "I'm suggesting we listen to her," Lincoln said calmly, "and stop pretending our foundation has been anything more than a tax shelter." Murmurs buzzed like static across the table. "You've lost perspective," Whitmore said sharply. "Since when did we value emotion over logic?" "Since logic stopped being enough," Lincoln replied. Granger leaned forward. "You want to make Maya Williams a consultant? Fine. But be aware it will create ripples. If you elevate her, others will want the same. You can't reward her without setting precedent." "Mess." Lincoln looked her straight in the eye. "Maybe precedent's exactly what we need." Silence fell like a gavel. Across town, Maya sat in the cramped back office of Seeds for Scholars, reviewing applications. The space was humble, one flickering overhead bulb, second-hand chairs, and the smell of old carpet, but it buzzed with energy. Papers were stacked with handwritten notes, transcripts, and hopeful letters from students who had nothing except dreams. Beside her sat Mrs. Bernice Holloway, the program's founder, an elegant, silver-haired woman with a spine straighter than truth. "You know they're going to come after you, right?" Bernice said gently, stirring honey into her tea. Maya smiled. "They already are." "Lincoln Halverson? That man's walking into a hornet's nest for you." "I didn't ask him to." "No," Bernice said with a glint in her eye, "but he stepped in anyway. That means something." Just then, Maya's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Careful, Miss Williams. Not everyone applauds charity from the help." Maya stared at the screen, heart thudding. She didn't show Bernice. Later that night, Lincoln's driver dropped him off not at the penthouse but at a modest Harlem cafe 2 blocks from Maya's apartment. It was almost empty, quiet except for the hiss of a coffee machine and the low hum of soul music from the jukebox. Maya was already there, sitting in a corner booth with 2 mugs in front of her, one for him. "You drink coffee at night?" Lincoln asked as he slid into the booth. "It's decaf," she said. "Mostly." He smiled and took a sip. Then, quietly, "I got pushback today. From the board. From the legal team." "I figured," Maya said. "They don't want you involved." "I'm not surprised. They called you the help." Maya's expression didn't change. "I've been called worse." Lincoln leaned in. "They're afraid. That's what this is. You terrify them." She raised an eyebrow. "Why, because I clean floors and tell the truth?" "Exactly," he said. "You're not supposed to have that kind of power. Not in their world." She looked at him thoughtfully. "Then why are you still helping me? You have more to lose than I do." He hesitated. "Because the person I was before I met you didn't sleep well. He didn't believe in anything but numbers. You made me look in a mirror I'd spent years avoiding." Maya looked down at her cup. "Lincoln, I'm not trying to change the world. I just want to change the starting line for kids like Malik. That's all." He nodded. "Then let's start with that." The next morning, a photo appeared on an obscure finance blog. Maya and Lincoln sitting in that Harlem cafe. No context. Just the image. But it was enough. By noon, corporate emails had begun to circulate. Subject: CEO seen socializing with custodial staff, unusual priorities at Halverson Capital. By 2 p.m., anonymous letters were sent to investors. And by 6 p.m., an emergency meeting was called by the board. Lincoln knew what this was. A war. When he stepped into the conference room, the atmosphere was bloodless and sharp. "Mr. Halverson," Whitmore began, "we have concerns about optics, the integrity of leadership, the risk of distracting this company with unnecessary entanglements." "You mean decency?" Lincoln replied. "I mean recklessness," Granger snapped. This entire narrative, the billionaire and the janitor, it's dangerous. It undermines the hierarchy, the trust we've built with our elite clientele. Lincoln stood at the head of the table. And maybe that's exactly the problem. We've built trust on distance, on pretending some people don't matter unless they wear a suit. Maya Williams didn't ask for a spotlight, but she deserves a seat at this table more than half of you. You're jeopardizing our reputation, Whitmore said. No, Lincoln said coldly. I'm salvaging our soul. Then he walked out. That evening, he emailed Maya. Subject, they're coming for both of us. We keep going? A few minutes later, her reply came. Message, I've walked tougher streets than this. Let's go. The next morning, before sunrise painted even a hint of color across the Manhattan skyline, Maya Williams stood at the entrance of the Elmhurst Learning Center, a rundown but spirited after-school program tucked between a laundromat and a discount furniture store in Queens. Her hands clutched a box of donated supplies, pencils, workbooks, and secondhand laptops she'd salvaged through friends and online forums. Today wasn't about janitorial shifts or quiet corners. Today was about presence. Lincoln Halverson had sent her here with purpose, and she accepted it. Quietly, without fanfare. This was the first site under the new initiative, and her first field assignment as the program's anonymous advisor. No press releases, no cameras, just her and the kids. Inside, a boy with oversized glasses peeked from behind a bookshelf. Are you the laptop lady? Maya smiled. Maybe. Are you the kid who wants to build a rocket? He grinned. Yeah, my name's Andre. She stepped forward, knelt, and handed him a thin black laptop wrapped in a protective sleeve. Well, Andre, I hope this helps you get closer to space. He hugged the sleeve like it was made of gold. Meanwhile, across town, Lincoln sat in his office rereading a legal memo from the board's counsel. His hands trembled with restrained fury. If Maya Williams is to remain associated in any capacity with Halverson Capital Initiatives, it must be off the record, unaffiliated with public branding, and limited to non-advisory influence. Her direct involvement threatens the integrity of hierarchical structure. He read the words 3 times. Then he stood, walked to the window, and whispered to himself, integrity of what, exactly? He picked up the phone. Rachel, get me Maya. 30 minutes later, Maya was buzzed up through the executive entrance. She walked into his office wearing her usual uniform, cleaned and pressed, and held a folder of site reports in her hand. Wasn't sure if you'd call, she said. I need you to hear this, Lincoln said, handing her the memo. She read it once, calmly. When she finished, she looked up. They're scared that someone who cleans toilets knows where the real cracks in the building are. You don't have to keep doing this, he said. I can fight this battle with lawyers and PR. And leave the work behind? She asked. No, sir. I didn't start this to quit when it got uncomfortable. Lincoln exhaled, then gave her a new folder. 3 new sites. The South Bronx, Jersey City, East Harlem. These kids are off the grid, no access. No attention. I want your eyes on the ground. No, Maya nodded. Consider it done. As she turned to leave, he called after her. And Maya? Yes? They don't know how to fight someone who doesn't want anything. She smiled. Then let's keep it that way. The next stop was the Jersey City Community Center, where Maya met with a grandmother named Dolores, who had turned her living room into an unofficial after-school safe haven. Books lined the walls. A cracked whiteboard leaned against the fireplace. I've got 12 kids coming here every week, Dolores said, pouring coffee into mismatched mugs. Some of their parents are gone. Others are working 2, 3 jobs. We don't have much, but we keep them fed, keep them reading. Maya handed over 2 Wi-Fi hotspots and a small check from the anonymous fund. Dolores blinked in disbelief. This'll pay our heat through February. Maya looked around the small room. You're doing more than most cities. That night, Lincoln received 3 separate emails from board members. One accused him of disruptive decentralization. Another warned of philanthropic mission drift. The third simply said, if you don't stop this, we will. He forwarded all 3 to his private account, then deleted them from the server. But the threat wasn't just internal anymore. At 6:37 a.m. the next day, an anonymous article was published on a fringe financial blog. Janitor turned kingmaker. the radical story behind Halverson's philanthropy shift. It included quotes from inside sources, photos of Maya entering and leaving his office, and even one grainy picture of her sharing coffee with Lincoln at the Harlem Cafe. Maya's phone buzzed nonstop, her inbox filled with hate mail, ridicule, and worse. She sat alone in the locker room downstairs, gripping her phone, her thumb hovering over the screen. She didn't cry, but her jaw clenched so tightly it ached. Then, another message came in from Lincoln. "Don't run. Don't hide. Let me handle it. Meet me at 10. She did. This time, in a conference room, not hidden in the shadows but face to face with Lincoln's executive PR team. Suits, laptops, and tension filled the air. "This leak was deliberate," Lincoln told them, "possibly from the board. We do not engage. No press conferences, no apologies." "But we need to spin this," one consultant barked. "No," Lincoln said. "We do not spin sincerity." Then he turned to Maya. "I need to ask you something," he said. "Not as your boss, as a partner in this. Go ahead. If this doesn't stop, if the press, the board, the hate if it gets worse, are you ready for that?" Maya looked at him, fire behind her eyes. "I've cleaned vomit off bathroom walls, Mr. Halverson. I've held a teenager's hand after he got jumped walking home from tutoring. You think this scares me?" He smiled slowly. "Didn't think so." That night, Maya returned to Seeds for Scholars. There were fresh flowers left on the doorstep, no note, just lilies and daisies. And inside her inbox, wedged between the cruel and the crude, was one simple email. "My daughter got her laptop," she cried. "Thank you, Miss Maya." She closed her eyes. She was ready for the storm. Lincoln Halverson sat alone in his office long after the building emptied. The skyline pulsed with city lights, but inside, it was quiet, too quiet. The article had spread like oil on water. Within 24 hours, Maya's name had become synonymous with controversy. The janitor behind the Billionaire, Cinderella or corporate Trojan horse, philanthropy or publicity stunt. Everyone had an opinion, none of them seemed to include the truth. Lincoln reread Maya's last message before closing his laptop. "I'm still here." 3 words. Unshaken, grounded. He turned toward the city, his own reflection faint in the glass. Something was shifting not just within the company, but inside him. A storm was forming. Yes, but maybe it was the kind of storm that uprooted the dead trees and left space for something new to grow. At Seeds for Scholars, Maya pushed a box of donated books into the corner and collapsed onto a folding chair. Her eyes burned from lack of sleep. The threats had increased. Not just digital now, someone had slashed her car tires the night before. No witnesses, no security footage, just a cruel message scrawled in marker across the hood. "Stay in your place." She hadn't told Lincoln. She wouldn't. Not yet. Instead, she poured her energy into what mattered: funding, site visits, and prepping for the East Harlem Town Hall meeting Lincoln insisted they hold, even after the leak. "You want me to speak at a public meeting?" Maya had asked him days earlier. "I want you to be seen," he'd said, "not through someone else's lens. In your own voice." She'd agreed, reluctantly. Now, the day had arrived. The auditorium in East Harlem smelled like old gym mats and school lunches. Plastic chairs creaked under the weight of 100 curious citizens, parents, teachers, donors, skeptics, even press with silent lenses pointed at the podium. Maya sat off stage, palms sweating, pulse skipping. Lincoln approached her, adjusting his tie. "You don't have to dazzle them," he said. She gave a nervous chuckle. "Good, because I'm not sure I can." Just speak from where it hurts," he added. "That's where the truth usually lives." Then he stepped up to the mic and opened with quiet authority. "Ladies and gentlemen, I've built a fortune by trusting data. But I've come to learn that numbers don't always tell the whole story. Sometimes, the story lives in places we ignore. Tonight, I want you to hear from someone whose truth changed the way I see everything." He stepped aside. Maya walked up, spine straight, throat tight. The microphone felt too tall. She adjusted it slowly. "Good evening," she began. Her voice cracked. She paused, gathered herself. "My name is Maya Williams. I'm a janitor at Halverson Capital. I've also been giving away half my paycheck for the last 16 months to help kids get access to education." A stir rippled through the audience. Cameras clicked. I don't have a foundation. I don't own a boardroom. I've never been to college. But I know what it's like to be a smart kid with no books, to be curious and invisible. She looked out at the crowd, scanning faces. I'm not here because I'm special. I'm here because I was tired of waiting for someone else to do something. She paused. A man in the front row leaned forward. So, I did what I could. A few dollars, a few chances, and somehow, those chances turned into college applications, job interviews, futures. Her voice grew firmer. You ask why a janitor is up here? Because the system we built forgot that value isn't about title or income. It's about impact. One woman in the back stood up and clapped. Then another. Then another. By the time Maya stepped down, the room was on its feet. Lincoln met her at the steps. You did that, he said quietly. No, she replied. They did that. They just needed permission. The headlines the next morning were different. Janitor speaks truth to power, and the city listens. Ugh. From mop to microphone. Maya Williams wins East Harlem crowd. But the board wasn't pleased. A meeting was called within 48 hours. Lincoln stood before them, unfazed. This is no longer a PR issue, Whitmore snapped. This is insubordination. She's not an employee in this context, Lincoln replied. Semantics, Granger said coldly. You're challenging structure. You're creating chaos. Lincoln let them rant, let them sweat. Then he spoke. What are you actually afraid of? He asked, calm and slow. Silence. He looked around the room. Are you afraid that someone without money or pedigree told the truth and people listened? Or are you afraid that people are starting to see the cracks we've been wallpapering over for decades? Whitmore stood. Enough. The vote is tonight. We'll decide if this initiative, and your leadership, continues. Lincoln didn't flinch. Then let the vote happen. Meanwhile, at a Bronx elementary school, Maya sat cross-legged in a classroom surrounded by 5 children learning to read. One of them, Jeremiah, kept calling her Miss Maya the Book Lady. She laughed each time. Her phone buzzed. It was Lincoln. Votes tonight. Whatever happens, we stay the course. She replied, 1 chapter at a time. That evening, in a boardroom of men and marble, 12 votes were cast. 7 for keeping the status quo, 5 for change. The motion failed. Lincoln was advised to scale back all activities not tied to core profit objectives. He stood slowly. You've made your decision, he said. Now let me make mine. He pulled a sealed envelope from his coat pocket and slid it onto the table. My resignation, he said. A gasp. You can have your board. I'll keep my conscience. He turned and walked out, leaving silence in his wake. Maya Williams was wiping down tables at the Bronx Literacy Center when the news broke. Her phone buzzed endlessly. Group chats exploded. Her sister called twice, then texted in all caps, Lincoln Halverson resigned, for you. She stared at the screen, unmoving. The children around her kept reading, blissfully unaware that the man funding their new books and digital tablets had just walked away from a billion-dollar empire. Lincoln Halverson had left everything, his title, his board, his legacy on the table for a janitor, with no formal degree, no pedigree, and no power. Except now, she did have power. And for the first time, it terrified her. Lincoln didn't speak to the press. He didn't post a statement on social media or do the morning show circuit. Instead, he disappeared out of the penthouse, out of the corporate tower, and into a small co-working space above a barber shop in Harlem. His only possessions were a leather notebook, a second-hand laptop, and a folder labeled Maya. The press speculated wildly. Some said he'd had a breakdown. Others claimed it was a strategic exit to launch his own brand of woke capitalism. But those close to him knew better. He had found something that Wall Street couldn't measure. Conviction. 2 days later, Maya arrived at the same office above the barber shop. The elevator was broken, so she took the stairs, breathing hard by the time she reached the top. Lincoln opened the door himself. He wore jeans, a hoodie, a look she had never seen on him. Relief. You look not like a billionaire, she said, stepping inside. Because I'm not anymore, he replied. She eyed the room, sparse, folding chairs, dry erase board with a single phrase written on it. The starting line shouldn't depend on your zip code. Maya pointed at it. That yours? No, yours. From East Harlem. I wrote it down. He handed her a binder. Inside were draft documents for a new nonprofit Foundation 45, named after the age demographic most ignored by corporate philanthropy. "It's yours if you want it," he said. "No strings. Just start something real." Maya sat down slowly. "You walked away from a billion-dollar company to do this?" "I didn't walk away," Lincoln said. "I walked toward something, toward you, toward this." She stared at him, emotion rising. "You sure you're not having a midlife crisis?" "Midlife, maybe. Crisis? No. That was the board meeting." They laughed. For the first time in what felt like years. Then Maya grew serious. "They're not done, you know. The people who sent the threats, who slashed my tires. They'll find other ways." "I know," he said, "and we won't let that stop us." The launch of Foundation 45 was deliberately quiet. No champagne, no stage, no ribbon cutting, just an email blast to grassroots educators, literacy centers, foster youth advocates, and inner-city nonprofits. The message was simple. We're not here to save. We're here to partner. Within weeks, applications flooded in. Teachers in Detroit who needed digital whiteboards. A single father in Atlanta trying to open a free tutoring center. A nurse in Oakland who taught night classes in her garage. And Maya read every single one. By hand. But not everyone celebrated the rise of Foundation 45. The finance blog that first leaked the story published a new headline. Halverson's reckless rebrand. From CEO to social justice mascot. Anonymous accounts flooded the nonprofit's inbox with hate mail. One message stuck with Maya. "You don't belong in rooms with decision makers. You clean after them." She read it twice, then deleted it, then built a scholarship fund specifically for children of custodial workers named the Janitor's Legacy. If they wanted to insult her, fine. She'd make the insult into a banner. Meanwhile, back in Midtown, the Halverson board celebrated a return to focus. Stock prices rose temporarily. Quarterly reports looked strong, but whispers lingered. Clients asked about the CEO who'd left to fund janitors and kids, and one investor reportedly told Whitmore, "Lincoln had heart. You just have spreadsheets." One chilly evening, Maya stood outside a small community library in Newark, watching a group of middle schoolers leave their tutoring session. One of them, a lanky girl named Tiara, ran up to her. "Miss Maya, I got an A in reading, first time ever." Maya beamed. "Told you that brain of yours was dangerous." "No. Do you think I could be a writer?" Maya knelt to her level. "I think you already are." Behind them, Lincoln watched silently. He didn't need to be in the photo. He didn't need credit. Watching Maya light fires in young minds was enough. That night, over takeout noodles in the office, Maya looked up from her laptop. "You think we're crazy?" she asked. "I think crazy is spending your life defending a company that wouldn't defend you," he said. They clinked chopsticks. A new kind of toast. Maya leaned back. "What if we actually change something?" "We already are," Lincoln said. "One kid, one block, one ripple at a time." And as they sat in that little upstairs office, surrounded by books, letters, and the quiet hum of new beginnings, neither of them realized that Foundation 45 would soon outgrow them both. 1 month later, the city was talking. Not in press releases or boardrooms, but in grocery store lines, PTA meetings, church basements, and Saturday morning barber shops. Foundation 45 had begun to make waves. Not the flashy kind, the real kind. Computers were delivered to schools no one invested in. Math tutors were funded in neighborhoods long forgotten. Bus passes, eyeglasses, warm meals, and sometimes just a hand to hold. People didn't always know where it came from, but they felt the shift. And at the center of it all was Maya Williams, still wearing sneakers with worn soles and a ponytail tied too tight. But now with a laptop, a small staff, and the strange weight of influence. She didn't love it, but she respected it. That morning, she stood in front of a crowd in Baltimore, opening the city's first mobile tutoring van. It wasn't much, just a converted RV with shelves, beanbags, and books, but to the kids running toward it with arms wide open, it was a palace. "Books and Wi-Fi," one boy yelled. "This thing's got both?" Maya laughed. "You better believe it." She knelt beside a girl no older than 7. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" The girl paused. "I want to be in charge of something." Maya smiled. "Good. Start with this van. Make sure these boys behave." The girl grinned. straightened her spine, and barked orders like a tiny general. Maya chuckled. "Just like that," she whispered. "Take the space. Own it." Oh, meanwhile, in New York, Lincoln paced a cracked tile floor in an old community center, running on 2 hours of sleep and 3 cups of coffee. Across from him sat Pastor Eugene Blakely, a quiet man with steel-gray dreadlocks and a reputation for speaking fire into microphones. "I hear what you're doing," Pastor Blakely said. "I respect it. But let me be clear, this isn't just about laptops and lesson plans. These kids are angry, left out, ignored. You're not going to band-aid that with Wi-Fi." "I'm not trying to fix everything," Lincoln replied. "I'm trying to fund people who've already been doing the work for decades, people like Maya, like you." Blakely studied him. "You've got the right heart, Halverson. But you're not one of us. And trust can't be bought with donations. It has to be earned in sweat." "I get that," Lincoln said, "and I'm willing to earn it." Blakely nodded slowly. "Then we'll see." No. That night, Maya and Lincoln met in a diner in Yonkers, halfway between 2 site visits. The waitress, older, no nonsense, poured them both coffee and called Maya Sugar. They talked numbers, applications, new funding proposals. But under it all, there was something unsaid. Finally, Lincoln looked up. "I've been thinking about legacy." "Yours or mine?" Maya asked. "Both," he said. "I spent 2 decades building something that made me rich and empty. Now I'm building something that barely pays, and I've never felt more full." Maya sipped her coffee, watching his face. "Sometimes I still wake up thinking I need to mop a floor before dawn," she said quietly. "Then I remember this is the work now. Not cleaning messes, but building places where fewer messes are made in the first place." Lincoln smiled. "You ever think about what's next?" Maya shook her head. "Next is too big. I think about tomorrow." He tapped the table. "Tomorrow, we've got 3 site visits, a press inquiry, and an invitation from the mayor's office." She blinked. "Wait, what?" "Yep, City Hall. They want us to speak next week. Education equity panel." Maya groaned. "I'm not good at panels. Or suits. Or microphones. You're good at truth. That's all that matters." But outside that warm diner, someone was watching. A man in a dark coat, parked 2 cars away, camera lens tucked under a scarf. Not press, not a fan, a hired eye. And that photo, Maya and Lincoln, seated close, mid-laugh, would be weaponized within days. 2 mornings later, Halverson Capital released a corrective memo, drafted by legal and polished by PR. It read, "While we wish Mr. Halverson well in his future endeavors, we must clarify that recent actions by Miss Maya Williams are in no way affiliated with the values or direction of Halverson Capital. Her influence during Mr. Halverson's tenure was unvetted, undocumented, and unapproved." It was signed by James Whitmore, now acting CEO. Maya read the memo 3 times. She didn't cry. She didn't call Lincoln. She did, however, walk into the foundation's office that afternoon and write a statement herself. Simply, honest. "I never asked to be allowed in. I just refused to stay out. We're not here to impress corporations. We're here to outgrow them." She posted it online, and within 24 hours, it had over 2 million views. The media circus returned. This time, it wasn't just curious. It was ravenous. Lincoln's former board accused Maya of manipulation. Some accused her of weaponizing poverty. Others asked whether she was secretly being groomed for politics. And then came the worst headline yet. From janitor to puppeteer, the billionaire who gave it all away for her. Maya walked into the office the next day, silent and tired. Her assistant tried to shield her from the noise, but she waved them off. "Let them talk," she said. "We have work." That night, she called Lincoln. "They want to paint me as a scam," she said. "You want to stop?" he asked. She thought about it, thought of Malik, of Dolores, of Andre and Tierra and Jeremiah. "No," she said. "I want to double down." "Good," Lincoln replied, "because I just got us a meeting with the Department of Education." She blinked. "How?" "I may not be CEO anymore," he said, "but I still have 1 or 2 favors left." That one, and as they hung up, both of them knew the story wasn't over. The storm wasn't over. But they weren't running. The marble halls of the Department of Education felt like a different planet compared to the community centers Maya had grown used to. Polished, cold, heavy with bureaucracy, Maya walked beside Lincoln down a long corridor lined with historic photographs of former superintendents and education secretaries, all gray suits and stiff smiles. She felt the weight of their stares, even if they were only pictures. It was the same feeling she'd had the first time she mopped the floors of Halverson Capital. You don't belong here. Only this time, she kept walking. At the end of the hall, a double-door conference room opened to reveal Deputy Secretary Howard Lyons, a sharp-eyed man in his 50s with a politician's handshake and a professor's posture. He gestured toward the table. Mr. Halverson, Miss Williams, let's get to it. The meeting began with pleasantries. Then came the numbers. Lincoln laid out Foundation 45's pilot program data attendance improvements, grade boosts, and early literacy gains from the Baltimore and Newark sites. Lyons reviewed the files with measured interest. Impressive, but unconventional. No oversight board. No state liaison. You're operating entirely outside the system. Maya answered calmly. Because the system forgot the kids we're reaching. He raised a brow. That may be, but if we're to support this publicly, we'll need structure. Lincoln leaned in. Then let's build one. We're not asking for a blank check. We're offering a model. Lyons sat back. I'll take this to the secretary. No promises. But it's worth the conversation. He stood, extending a hand, first to Lincoln. Then, after the briefest pause, to Maya. She shook it firmly. I've read about you, he said. You're stirring the pot. She met his eyes, only because it needed stirring. Outside, on the stone steps of the building, Maya exhaled deeply. Lincoln noticed. You okay? Yeah, she said. Just funny how you can sit across from power and still feel invisible. You weren't invisible, he said. You made them sit up straighter. She gave him a tired smile. Well, that's something. They walked down the steps together. Neither noticed the camera flash from across the street. The next morning, a new article hit the media cycle, this time with venom. Janitor, activist, sits with feds. Who's pulling the strings? Social media buzzed. Hate mail surged. Accusations flew. And Maya's phone rang nonstop from family, from friends, even from people she hadn't spoken to in years. Some said she was brave, others said she was reckless. But one voice left a voicemail she never expected. Her father, Maya, I saw the news. I know I haven't earned the right to say anything, but I'm proud of you, baby girl. Don't let them break you. She didn't cry. Not right away. She let it sit in her chest, like a stone softening over time. At the foundation, Lincoln and Maya gathered the team for an emergency strategy session. Their staff was small, just 6 people, but every one of them was tired and burning the candle at both ends. I say we take a step back, said Jasmine, their media lead. Go quiet. Let it blow over. No, Maya said. If we go quiet now, they win. Lincoln nodded. We need to take control of the story. Own it before they write it for us. He looked at Maya. Would you consider doing an interview? She hesitated. I hate cameras. I know. But maybe it's time people heard your side. Not as a headline. As a person. She nodded slowly. Okay, one interview. On my terms. The next day, Maya sat across from a respected journalist at a nonprofit podcast studio. No lights, no makeup, just a mic and truth. The host asked, when people say you manipulated a billionaire, how do you respond? Maya smiled faintly. I didn't manipulate anyone. I just showed up, every day, did my job, gave what I could, and someone noticed. Do you think people are uncomfortable with your story because it challenges the idea of who gets to make change? Absolutely, she said. We've been taught that power wears a suit and speaks in boardroom language. I'm here to remind folks that power can wear sneakers and carry a mop. The host leaned in. What do you say to the people who tell you to stay in your place? She answered without blinking. This is my place. Anywhere change needs to happen, that's where I belong. The interview went viral, not because it was loud, but because it was real. Clips circulated on social media, and suddenly, Maya was no longer a curiosity. She was a symbol, but symbols attract fire. Later that week, while leaving a school site in Brooklyn, Maya's rental car was sideswiped by a speeding SUV. It didn't stop. Police called it a random incident. Lincoln didn't buy it. Neither did Maya. When she returned to the office, scraped but unshaken, she looked around the small team and said, "We keep going. If they want to scare us, let's scare them back with results." And they did. Over the next 2 weeks, 3 more cities joined the Foundation pilot program. Donation doubled, volunteers tripled, and Maya was invited to speak at the National Urban Education Summit. She stood at the podium, looked out over a sea of educators, and began her speech. "I'm not here because I'm polished. I'm here because I'm persistent." The crowd erupted. Maya was no longer just the woman who gave away her paycheck. She was a movement. The day after the summit, Maya Williams couldn't walk a block in Harlem without someone stopping her. A teenager on a skateboard called out, "Yo, Miss Maya, that speech? You lit a fire." A grocery store clerk slipped her a note with her receipt. "My daughter's in school because of you." Even the old security guard at the subway station gave her a proud nod and simply said, "Keep making noise." But with every pat on the back came a new burden. More eyes, more pressure, more expectation. She returned to the office that evening and found Lincoln already there, sleeves rolled up, whiteboard covered in scribbles and color-coded notes. "Looks like we're expanding to Atlanta next month," he said. "Atlanta?" Maya blinked. "We just finished Newark." "I know, but the city council voted to fund matching grants if we show up. The local paper already ran a front-page story, 'Janitor who changed to billionaire now changing Georgia.'" She dropped her bag with a heavy sigh. "We're not moving too fast?" she asked. Lincoln looked up. "You're asking the guy who once launched a startup in 36 hours. She smirked. "And how did that end?" "We made $30 million in 2 years, and lost it all in 6 months. Maya laughed, then sobered. "This is different. We're not losing spreadsheets. We're losing trust if we mess up. Which is why," Lincoln said, sliding a folder across the desk, "we're hiring regional program directors, people from the communities. No outsiders, no suits." She opened the folder and read the first candidate bio, Keisha Barnes, former foster youth, now principal at a Detroit middle school. The others were just as promising. This feels right," she said. "We build something with people, not for them," Lincoln replied. But not everyone welcomed the foundation's growth. At a private retreat in the Hamptons, former board members from Halverson Capital held a closed-door meeting. Among them was Whitmore, and a recently hired PR crisis consultant, Margot Ellis, known in the industry as the Cleaner. "She's gaining ground," Whitmore said, tapping a photo of Maya projected on the screen. "Grassroots traction, public sympathy. Even politicians are quoting her." Margot didn't blink. "Then we don't attack her directly. We undermine the narrative." "How?" "We change the story," she said. "People love her because she's humble, modest, unpolished. So let's shift perception. Let's make her look strategic, calculating, ambitious in all the wrong ways." Whitmore frowned. "You want us to make her a villain?" "No," Margot smiled. "We just make her uncomfortable." The plan launched quietly. First came the anonymous tip to a major news outlet. Foundation 40. 5 linked to potential misuse of grant funds. Then, an investigative series featuring Maya's past. A petty shoplifting charge at age 17. A failed community college semester. An old eviction record. Nothing illegal, nothing recent, but enough to raise eyebrows. Then came the real bombshell. A photo leaked out of context of Maya and Lincoln laughing over takeout with a caption, "Just business or something more?" The implications were subtle but sharp. Janitor turned CEO and billionaire backer. The real relationship behind the foundation? The comments were brutal. Maya didn't leave her apartment for 2 days. Not because she was ashamed, because she was furious. Lincoln arrived at her doorstep with Thai food and a thunderous look on his face. "I can sue them," he said without sitting down. "I can bury Whitmore in injunctions and gag orders." Maya shook her head. "No." He blinked. "What?" She stood. "If we fight this their way, we lose. I'm not interested in playing clean in a rigged game." "No." "So what do we do?" She paced the room, then pointed to the stack of letters on her kitchen table, handwritten thank you notes from parents, teachers, and kids. "We speak louder. We tell our stories. We put people on camera, those who've seen what we've done. We drown their noise in truth." Lincoln nodded. "You want to go public?" Not with defense, she said, with testimony. 2 days later, Foundation 45 released a video campaign titled, Faces of Change. No actors, no scripts, just the people they had helped. A single mom from Newark talking about her daughter's first report card with straight A's. A teen from Baltimore sharing how the tutoring van kept him off the streets. A librarian from Atlanta who now had internet for every child in her after-school club. And finally Maya herself, speaking straight to camera. I've made mistakes. I'm not polished. I've failed, and I've gotten back up. But I have never stolen. I have never lied, and I will not apologize for caring. Within 24 hours, the video had over 10 million views. Donations surged. Volunteers signed up in record numbers, and media began to shift tone, calling the smear campaign transparent and tone-deaf.